Irregular warfare has become explosive as guerrilla forces use increasingly powerful homemade bombs to attack troops and civilians.
It is an IED war. Almost all our casualties are through IEDs.
The front line is nowhere and everywhere. And rising to that challenge is one of the U.S. Navy's most elite units. Now, a behind-the-scenes look at EOD, the Navy Bomb Squad. The main tool of combat is ordnance, explosive materials. Regular forces use them in bombs, rockets, artillery loads, and smaller rounds. Guerrillas make up weapons on the fly, as in the Iraq War and its ubiquitous IEDs, or improvised explosive devices. Conventional or improvised, the result is the same. Deadly packages that kill and maim thousands each year. To save lives on battlefields and elsewhere, unexploded munitions must be neutralized. An elite unit of U.S. Navy specialists dedicates itself to disarming and destroying deadly war devices. They're called EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal. And they work in war zones scarred from fierce encounters and surprise attacks. Areas that once were safe now sputter with sudden skirmishes and ambushes. It's a nightmare battlefield where opponents skilled at demolition set all manner of traps. Every wreck, every junk pile, every piece of trash could be a deadly hazard waiting for a passing convoy or bus. To combat these threats, Navy EOD teams step up. For around $200 a week in hazardous duty pay, they put themselves between death and life.
The main job of EOD is to preserve life and prevent damage to buildings, structures, infrastructure. We want to minimize damage.
The primary concern is the safety of our people, protection of the indigenous population and their property as well.
Navy EOD consists of about 850 technicians. These specialists serve in 15 mobile units and numerous detachments around the world. To join EOD, a sailor must meet the armed forces' toughest standards and survive a rigorous 18-month course. Every service has EOD units, but only Navy EOD teams have the skills needed to work with Special Forces personnel like Navy SEALs and Army SOF.
Our primary job is EOD, but yet we also have expeditionary skills and air mobility skills that allows us to operate in the same environment as any other special elite unit that is out there.
EOD techs must master high-altitude parachuting, water insertion, and small unit tactics.
There are no other EOD techs, primary EOD techs in the world that can operate in the water, on land, in the air, and do all those things.
EOD uses a variety of tools. Some gear, like the EOD-8 bomb suit, is pretty basic. Body armor with a little extra armor, and then another couple of layers of armor. Other equipment, like the Talon robot and satellite imagery and communications equipment, is the latest technology. But in the end, it comes down to having the will to prevail against some of the world's most lethal weapons. A spirit summed up in the EOD motto: initial success or total failure. Every person in the U.S. Armed Services has to take an aptitude test. A high score gets you into the Navy, but only the highest scoring Navy personnel can join EOD. And the Navy EOD school has one of the service's highest washout rates. It's a 51-week course that covers every aspect of ordnance work. The first phase is dive training, with special emphasis on diving physics and medicine, plus open-circuit scuba, mixed gas closed-circuit breathing apparatus, and small craft insertions. Candidates study all categories of ordnance and how to neutralize them. Ground, landmines, grenades, booby traps, and projected munitions like rockets and mortar rounds. Air, bombs, missiles, gun systems. Improvised explosive devices, the now familiar IEDs. Underwater, torpedoes, mines, and techniques needed to find and disarm them. After basic EOD training, students take up helo rope suspension work, small arms, and parachuting by land and by sea. But even those who make the grade need to know more to serve in battle zones. And that kind of education doesn't happen in classrooms. It happens in Southern California's Mojave Desert. On the bleak Mojave's western edge, 150 miles northeast of Los Angeles, Naval Air Weapons Station, China Lake. Overhead, pilots practice bombing on the largest target range in the country. For 50 years, the Navy has been testing major weapons systems here. EOD first came here to clean up unexploded munitions strewn across the station's 1.1 million acres. But the desert offered more, a perfect base for ordnance disposal training.
Up here in the high desert, I think it really reflects a lot of the terrain and conditions that we find in Iraq and even in the higher elevations in Afghanistan as well.
To sharpen the skills of students whose next posting could be a combat zone, instructors recreate conditions and circumstances in current theaters of operation.
The scenarios that we run up here, they're based exactly on what we see. We have people that are post-deployers just coming out of country. We use everything that they've got as far as experience to mirror what's going on there currently.
So in about 5 minutes, security's going to be rolling out.
Simulated or real, and EOD action starts with a 9-line, a report on the situation at hand.
A 9-line is essentially a report that comes into the EOD deck. It has the information about what has been found, a description of it, where it's located, who are the contact folks at the site. It'll be either delivered by hand, telephone, message, over radio. It establishes an environment that the EOD team can prepare for.
These trainees have an urgent 9-line. They have to check out an improvised explosive device, or IED. The brush hides a makeshift rocket launcher aimed at their command post. This may be a simulation, but teams rehearse as if their lives are on the line. They send in a remote-controlled robot with instructions